Welcome to this Mentoring Made Easy taster. Mentoring Made Easy is a self-paced online program that I wrote recently. And basically, it's a program that helps you learn how to mentor very quickly using a solution-focused coaching approach. But I want to give you an overview of what we're going to be doing today, because what we're going to be looking at is this lens of how do you have a beginner's mind? You are listening to a mentee speak to you, yeah, rather than an expert mind. And I'm going to go into that in a bit of detail and show that in action. Yeah, so it's a very action-orientated webinar today, so you can see what I mean by having a beginner's mind versus a expert mind. And often people make the mistake when they're mentoring of going straight into advice giving, when without finding out what they already know. So let's get straight into it. What made you sign up today? What tempted you to go, yeah, I want to learn more about that? And I might start with you, Safina, because you were here bright and early, and it is early where you're located. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. So Safina gets the award for being most enthusiastic to get out of bed to do it. So Safina, what made you sign up? Because you know solution focus, don't you? So I'm curious, what made you sign up?
Yeah, I do know solution focused, but I'm not sure that I know mentoring. So I know about coaching, but I'm not so sure about mentoring. And yeah, so and I'm not a leader formally. So I'm really interested in your take and whether this course might still be suitable for me,
Okay,
even
yeah,
though I'm not formally in a mentoring position.
sure. And thank you for clarifying that, because this it specifically for leaders, it's actually for people who work on alongside people. Yeah, that guide on the side. And sometimes that can be for a colleague. Sometimes that might be through a formal mentoring program, or sometimes it might just be a friend. Yeah, but there's a way we can support people to grow and learn in their career when we don't necessarily have to have that formal mentoring hat, but it's a really nice way to work with people. Clive, welcome. And it's going to be early in your location too, I assume. So, Amy, what made you sign up for today? What is
So I met at a mentor walk, and I'm just started about a month into a new role, and so I'm managing a bunch of engineers, and it's a little bit of a different area than what I used to be, and so I just kind of figure like I've mentored in the past, I've coached in the past, in my last job, but always keen to just get different views on how to do things because I think I've had like one way that has worked for me, but new environment, let's see if there's other things I'll need in my toolkit.
awesome? I'm glad you mentioned about, I'd forgotten about the mentor walks. That's where we met, and you were just about to start your new role. Remind me at the end to tell you about Engineers Australia mentoring program I'm facilitating for them
Okay.
very soon. Yes, something that you might want to sign up for. Len, for you, what made you sign up today, given
Um,
you're a frequent flyer?
I'm going to cash in those points soon. I guess the reason behind me joining the course is because I think for me, I want to continue to refine my skills and the complementary aspect about solutions-based plus mentoring. And I think your opening point about beginning mind and expert mind is a really important point. I think one of the big issues is for me is not to race in and go, look, I've got all this experience. Just listen to me. I'm the sage on the side and I know everything. That's not the case at all. I think that we don't give credit to people who come to an organisation who have got some skills. They might not have as great as yours, but actually acknowledging those skills.
Yeah. It's very, very powerful when we do acknowledge what people bring before we get right into, what they want and everything. It's a really important step. And let me tell you the story about going to a cardiologist recently who didn't even ask me, what have I tried? What have I done? And the impact that has when you don't ask. Yeah. And you assume they're an empty vessel ready to be filled up. So Mel, for you, what made you sign up?
Yeah, so I was just after further skills and tips on how to mentor people, probably better than what I am at the moment. I always believe there's room for improvement, so I thought I'd come along and, see if there's different areas or different things that I can pick up that can work a bit better
Awesome.
currently.
Okay, well, you'll certainly pick up a tip around how to have that beginner's mind. We're really going to hone in on that particular skill. So thank you for coming along, Mel. Clive, welcome. Good to see you. What made you sign up today, and where are you located in the world today?
Yeah, morning, Annette. Actually, I'm in India back for holidays. Good morning, everybody. Yeah,
Morning.
I've seen your webinar last night. It's in holiday mode, so I don't check my email very often. So I just logged in this morning. I said I don't want to miss Annette's class. It's always great to attend your classes because anything additional to my skills, I don't miss an opportunity. Mainly when I got recently promoted for more senior position now, and it says like, I'm expert in this position. I don't want to miss that expertise. So anything additional I need to know so I can justify what the company thinks about me.
Awesome. So if you had a question about that, what would it be? So how to, Clive, for you? So if you shape that into a question that you have around, even though you've been given the title expert, what is the question you were how would you finish that sentence?
Annette, I'm sorry, your voice is cracking. I could not get the complete question. What is the question?
So even though you've been given the label expert, your title expert, what is your question around that? How would you finish that question?
Okay. My title, which is given to me, is I'm a senior safety systems coach now. And it's like, and they have mentioned like, I'm expertise in this coaching. And obviously I started using your skills and whatever experience I have. So there were some challenges definitely when I was using this, mainly with the senior people. Like I said, probably I'm dealing with somebody who's more experienced than me in the industry and more senior than me. But unfortunately, they have to listen to me what I'm saying because that's what my position is there. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So is that the question then? How do I deal with someone more senior to me when you're in the expert role? Yeah.
Right.
Love
So when I'm saying senior is like, it comes to the director of operations and so on. The top wigs of the company, and I have to coach them as well.
Yeah. And it's tricky. It can be done. Yeah. So I'll weave some of those examples in as well when I do the modeling. Okay, I've heard from everyone. Excellent. So just let me cover off a couple of things of what's the lens I'm going to be coaching using a mentoring approach. So what I'm going to do to start with is just explain what is a coaching approach to mentoring. What do I actually mean by that? And then I'll be doing the demonstration around why should we have a beginner's mind rather than an expert mind. So like Clive, sometimes when you're in a technical expert role, does not mean you have to do it in that way. Yeah, there's a way you can offer input and ask you've had in certain things. So we can actually have what we call a beginner's mind. And a beginner's mind is a real equalizer. So it means you can walk by their side and as Len alluded to, be that guide on the side rather than a sage on the stage. And often what happens, and particularly in the medical profession, when you are a specialist or an expert, they like to treat you like you've got no input, no knowledge about that topic. But in fact, they've probably got a lot of experience or done something similar that you can draw on. And that's a really respectful way of working. So I'm going to model it, and then I'm going to tell you about what my Mentoring Made Easy program is. I think a lot of you know me, but just quickly in terms of my background, I've coached and mentored over 9,000 people, leaders and mentors over the last 24 years. I've been doing this kind of work. And I've done individual coaching, around 3,200 hours of individual coaching of leaders. I'm passionate about solution focus, and some of you have been in some of my programs already too that's alluded to what that's about. I've also been a leadership coach with Homeward Bound, which is a women in STEM leadership to go to Antarctica a couple of years ago. And now a big part of my focus in my work is for women in STEM, but also still women in education and safety roles. And I also mentor ocean swimmers, people learning to ocean swim outside of work. And I'm passionate about swimming in the ocean, particularly in winter. I'm going to go straight into what is the difference and the high level difference between mentoring and coaching, and why using a coaching approach to mentoring is actually a good way to go. Yeah, because generally people have been allocated as a mentor and haven't got any skill in it. So what they tend to do is tell all the war stories, tell all their wisdom without checking out what their mentee knows already. So traditional way of mentoring is a bit more directive, where you're informing, instructing, giving advice, giving your input, telling, providing guidance, and sharing your wisdom or your opinions. That's okay to do that, but I would strongly suggest first, check out what they know about this topic already. So if I go to the specialist doctor I saw a few weeks ago, he never asked me, what am I trying to do already that seems to be helping bring my cholesterol down? Yep. So he never asked that. He didn't know that for the past 2 years, I have been focused on changing my diet so it's a lot more low cholesterol foods. I'm also exercising 8 times a week. So I'm doing a lot. He never tapped into any of my wisdom of what's already worked. So guess how I felt after that conversation? I felt quite demoralized. Yeah. So what we want to do is tap in to people's expertise and experience, because they've generally got a wealth of it. Even in this sort of situation, they've probably been mentored before and someone who did it well before. So we can tap into that wisdom. So coaching approach to mentoring tends to be about, let's discover, what do they already know? Let's listen for what they want and understand that. Let's ask questions and clarify what is it they really want from this mentoring experience. And we may need to empathize of how challenging things are at the moment. But one question we could ask there is, how have you coped? You know, what seems to work on a good day? How have you done that? So I want to actually show you this in action. How do we use this coaching approach to mentoring? Now, good definition of solution focus, because I'm the model of being solution focused in your mentoring conversations. But a good definition of solution focus is still this one by Gregory Bateson that I love. It's like change is happening all the time. The simple way to change is to notice the useful change and amplify it and do more of it. So I want you to draw this. If you don't know this model already, you may want to draw it. If you know it already, then you can quickly draw it. But I want you to do two axes. Yep. The horizontal one is up the top of the vertical line is the positive content, and down the bottom is the negative content. The timeline is the horizontal axis. Past is one end, future is the other. And right where it crosses is present. Yep. So you're going to notice when I ask a question, I want you to tick, which quadrant am I in? Am I in what we call preferred future? What is it they want? Am I asking questions around what they want? Or am I in quadrant 2, which is what is working already? What have they tried? What we call the resourceful past? Or am I delving into the problem and I'm allowing them to talk all about the problem? Or am I finding out if they don't do anything about this particular challenge, what's going to happen if they don't do anything about it? So the unwanted continued. So tick when I ask a question or comment, and then put a circle when the mentee is saying something. Which quadrant are they in? And so that's going to be what we call our listening map of how are we listening for what they want, where are they at the moment, what's currently working, or in quadrant 4, if they don't do anything about this, what's going to happen. So I don't think I want to show you anymore. Oh, so I want you to select what would one of these topics be most relevant for you if you were mentoring someone, or if I was mentoring you. Let's do it. If there's a hot topic for you around what you would want to be mentored on for you personally, which topic would it be that I've got here? Your work-life balance, your well-being and setting clear boundaries, having a difficult conversation, your how do you build your confidence? How do you speak up and being assertive? So these are the hot topics that I find keep coming up for mentors in their mentoring conversations. So I want you to select what would be most relevant for you. Don't make it up. Choose something that you're challenged with at the moment in your life. And yeah, let's see where we're going to go. So let me find out what your topics are, and then I'll decide whose I'm going to go for. So Len, what is your topic for being mentored?
Difficult conversation.
Okay.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you. What's yours, Clive?
Career development.
Say that again.
Career development.
Career development. Awesome. Thank you. And Mel, what's your topic?
Probably the same as Len's, just the very difficult conversations.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you, Mel. Let me write that down. All right. Oh, who am I going to go for? I think, actually, Mel and Len, can you give me a few more sentences around difficult conversation? What would you be your question you'd want answered in a 10-minute conversation?
I guess in terms of dealing with how would I initially engage the conversation, and in terms of them being aware that there is a problem and raising that issue that they may not be aware of. That one.
Okay, so yours is how do I engage in
Yes.
a conversation and What was the last part of?
And do they realise that there is a problem?
Okay, great. I think all of us could learn from that. Yeah, awesome. Thank you. So what I would like everyone else to do, have your map, if you've got your note paper there, tick when I make a statement or a question, where am I on those 4 quadrants? And then when Len says something, put a circle. Okay? So please put your videos off for this demonstration so that you can really focus on what is happening in the interaction between me and Len for this. So we have about 10 minutes now, maybe a bit less. Your topic is, how do I engage with people around having a difficult conversation, and particularly around they may not realize it. Yeah, that this is a concern for you.
Yep.
So we have 10 minutes. What are your best hopes by the end of the conversation? How will you know this has been a good use of your time?
I think it's I think the end result would be that would there be a degree of realization that there is a problem, but couched in a way that it's not confronting and it's not in a form of attack in terms of their integrity, in terms of their work life, whatever it might be. It's just a way in which I could engage with them in a sort of neutral sort of way. And I know that sounds really silly, but it just means for me, it's just difficult. I'm just thinking of one particular person that I'm mentoring at present, and the difficulty with this person is that anything that you may mention to, and I've done it previously, it's met with almost a combative way. No, that's not the case at all. And I find that really difficult without, in a sense, and I don't want to pull rank or anything like that. I just want to be, I guess, one among equals in a sense, in terms of the conversation. That's what I'd like to be.
And what difference would that make if after our conversation, you'll be able to be like an equal with?
I think what it would be like is that there would be some sort of not agreement, but a realization that there may have been a problem, or there is a problem, I should say, and the way we want to go forward in micro steps, not massive steps, but small steps that would see a change in that person's demeanor in the classroom, and also and they're going forward as I see going forward looks like, put it that way.
Okay, so you're wanting to, by the end of this, have a way of working with this individual that you're an equal, and that you come out of the conversation with them having a way forward and small steps that they can take, and that you'll notice this change in demeanor.
Yep.
Okay. Awesome. So I'm curious, Len, have you had to do this before, where you had a difficult conversation where they accepted it and they actually changed their behavior and agreed to a way forward? Have you done that before?
Yes, I have. And there are elements of degree of success and failure, but but I have done that before, and I guess it's the words that you choose and the way that you actually, and I think it's also a capacity to actually listen and acknowledge what they're saying. But you may agree or disagree, but you're acknowledging what they're saying, and also noticing what they're doing and saying. And that's been a real plus in terms of the skills, if you like, of mentoring, where instead of rushing in and giving them the answers and whatever, I don't want to do that. I want them to be that there is, I guess, some form of autonomy that they can actually understand, some form of I guess, a degree of satisfaction on their own. So it's almost like, that they feel comfortable about where we're going, even though there might be small steps. It's just a way of acknowledging who they are, noticing what they do, and then at a time when you can interject, not in a sort of an aggressive way, but actually understanding that, wait a minute, I just want to pull you up on one or two things here. And I say pull you up, I just want to, can you clarify this for me? Can you be a bit more succinct about where you are, and really getting down to the really, I guess, the essence of what the problem is.
Right. From what you're saying, you have a real sense of how this is done well. So you were saying first up that the words you choose is really important. So what words seem to work when you're starting these conversations so that they get on board? What's worked?
I think what I've done, what I've looked at is the successes that they've had in the classroom, and what does that look like? So actually, I've sort of start with, tell me a story about you and where you are. Right, and also too, and then use a scale, and that scaling is really important in terms of saying, well, where do you think you are in relation to, if it's 0 to 10 and 10's fantastic, and they say a 6, I keep on coming back to the saying, so what does a 6 look like, and how, if you were to describe the 6, what would be the characteristics and features of those 6?
Wow. So from how you're describing this, you've got a real sense of how solution focused coaching works, because, you talked about, using the scale and what success they've already had. So I'm curious when you say I get them to tell a story of what, Len?
A story of their classroom behavior. What does it actually entail? Is in terms of, is it directive? Is it non-directive? Are you giving them direction? Do they feel comfortable? So it's basically about, I guess, how they see their classroom culture in the classroom itself.
I love that you're getting them to create awareness around their classroom culture already. Yes. Love that. Okay. So, and you also said your capacity to listen. When you're listening well, what are you noticing about yourself?
I'm trying, and it is trying to actually be fully engaged in the moment, and not looking at or not thinking about other things that I could or should or whatever it might be. I think one of the really big things for me is that, and it's difficult where you've got, a myriad of things you're doing or whatever it might be, but when you're talking to people, you actually have eye contact with them. You actually are looking for a way in which they are the only most important thing in the room other than me.
Wow. So again, this real sense of, what fully engaged looks like, and how you really listen and you're totally present and you've got eye contact. What difference does that make on people that you're having a difficult conversation with?
Well, I think the fact is that, they are the focus. They are the focus. It's not, and we're only dealing with a specific issue. We're not looking at any other things. We're just, it's almost like putting a cone of silence between us and, my person, the person I'm coaching and the person I'm mentoring, in a sense that you're the only thing in this room that counts.
Wow. And what impact does that have
I think
the person?
I think that they value that. I think that they value that you are the presence of you, no matter who you know, whatever you are in the school, rank or whatever, it's about the conversation. It's not about, well, I've taught for a zillion years and they haven't, or whatever it might be. They are come back to my thing. I call it, it's Latin primus inter pares. It means one among equals.
Wow, I love that. So you said that when you do it well, that they have autonomy.
There is-
How do you do that?
Well, I think that how you do that is about a series of questions that you ask them, and they come up with a solution themselves through the questions that you're asking. It's almost like corralling a horse, in putting them in a stable. But what you're doing is the questions that you're asking. I suppose it's a metaphor, whatever. What I'm doing is putting them into a particular area that I want, and hopefully at the end, because of my questions, all of a sudden they go, "Oh yeah, okay, I can see that."
So they come up with the conclusion. So that's what the autonomy is.
But I'm giving them autonomy in terms of the nature of questions that I'm asking.
Yeah. And I realize we need to wrap it up in a moment, but I'm really curious around, they're comfortable of where we're going. How do you do that when you do that well?
I think it's an issue about, you can sit opposite them, and also it's in an environment where there's nothing in between. So there's no desk, there's no all of those sorts of things. I think there's an issue about the physical presence that you're in, i.e., an office or whatever it be. You don't sit behind a desk. You actually sit opposite them, but there's nothing in between. So there's no barrier. There's no defense mechanism, whether it be physical or, in fact, or I guess metaphorical or metaphysical in many ways. I think that's what I'm trying to do anyhow.
Love that. So to wrap it up then, Len, what have you become aware of that you might do going forward when you're having to have more of these difficult conversations with teachers, obviously it is, around their classroom practice? If you did it well again,
I think
what would be a small step you could take?
Well, I think one of the things that I could do is that I could go in and see them teach and talk about that. But it's a progressive. I'll come in for 15 minutes, and then next, whatever it is, I'll come in and see another 15 minutes, and then I've got all my ducks in a row. Right. So then what I can do is that then if there is an issue, it isn't like I'm coming in cold. They've actually seen me, talked to me, whatever, and therefore it's a progressively moving in a direction that when I do need to have the conversation, we can look at what they did in the classroom, so I'm looking at, I guess, quadrant 2, right? So I've got information there, and then I can build on that information, and given how I'm going to try and coach them in the mentoring way, then I can try and get them to move of their own accord into quadrant 1.
Love that. So it's really about building trust.
Yeah. And I think I think for me, the biggest issue is about trust. There's a belief that you are trying to do the right thing.
And acknowledging all the good stuff that's already there.
Yeah.
So what's a good name for this project of?
Well, where you are and what you could be.
Where you are
and what you could be.
What you could be. We're going to bring that to a close. Thank you so much, Len. That was such a good topic to use as a demonstration. So you sit tight. I'm going to bring everyone else back. So Amy, Clive, and Safina. We're going to just do a round of compliments first before we debrief what actually happened here. So I want you to compliment Len. What's one thing that stood out to you that you were impressed with around this conversation of having difficult conversations with some teachers? So you about Len, Safina?
I'm impressed that he's even here, because it sounds like he's already doing so great, but he's still trying to improve, and I
Yeah.
find that always impressive.
Yeah, love that. Thank you.
Mhm.
Amy, for you, what were you impressed with hearing Len's story?
I was really impressed by the fact that you were very systematic and you could explain what you have been doing and how you can go about it.
Mm. Really knows how to do this, doesn't he? You know, it was very clear that he was already doing some wonderful things that were working. Thank you, Amy. Clive, what did you notice?
Excellent. I would say that, first of all, he has a lot of patience to do all this thing.
Yeah,
That's the primary thing I believe that every coach should have, to listen. And
yeah,
he did exactly systematically the way the coaching should be. He's already
yeah,
an expert. It's impressive the way, because some of the things when he was saying, that made me to recollect what we did in the class, and wow, I said he is systematic and he's expert already. Very
yeah,
impressive, Lynn.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, thank you so much, Len. And I'm really impressed, a bit like what Safina said, that in spite of how progressed he is in his capability, he has still that eagerness to learn and do even better. Yeah, so that really impressed me, Len, that you were these sessions and want to do more. So, what did you notice? Let's go down to how I mentored Len using a coaching approach. Yeah. So, what stood out to you in this topic of having a beginner's mind rather than an expert mind? Yeah, how did I demonstrate that? Let's begin there and then we'll go where you were on the quadrant. What did you notice? How I demonstrated I had a beginner's mind? What stood out? And everyone come off mute so we need to talk. What did you notice, Amy? How was I showing up in terms of having a beginner's mind? How did you notice that?
I think you were asking a lot of questions.
Yeah,
You weren't giving answers. I think you were exploring what he's done. And so when I was looking at it, it was more in the 1 and 2 rather than the 3 and 4.
yeah, spot on. Yep. I wanted to find out what he knows about this topic already, kind of questioning. And he gave me so much of his experience of doing it well. So I didn't need to give any of my expertise in. I was just holding a mirror up to what he's already doing that's working. And did you notice I used his words all the time? That's why I was quickly writing some things down. So I had his exact words. You know, he said, it's the words I choose. And I said, so what? Inquired into what he already gave me, all these gifts he gave me. I inquired into how did you do that and what difference did it make doing it that way. So he was creating this clear picture. I'm doing this already. Safina, what jumped out at you in terms of how I used a beginner's mind here?
Um, for me, Len jumped out there because he was making it very easy, because I mean, he clearly is an expert. So it's, of course, I guess it's a lot more difficult if you have people humming and hawing and I don't know. So he made it very easy. So I didn't hear any quadrant 3 or 4 at all. I only heard 1 and 2.
No, I sort of, sometimes you could say I'm starting at the intersection of all quadrants when I say, what are your best hopes from our conversation today? Yeah. That's sort of a right in the center there, but I didn't need to, and I could have easily first up gone, these are the steps you need to take to have a difficult conversation. I didn't need to. He had them all. He knew exactly, especially how to set up the room, how to be fully engaged, how to listen, how to warm them up and build trust with them beforehand. He had it all. So sometimes you're working with people who know a great deal about the topic, but we want to inquire into it to find out what they already know. And if he goes, no, every time I've done it, it's not, then I would go, okay, I'll provide some expertise, but I didn't need to in this scenario. Clive, what stood out to you in terms of me demonstrating a beginner's mind?
Right. So I was more focusing on your part than what Lynn did, because I know that Lynn is already an expert. I was more interested in your part because that's what my challenge is. Because when I'm billing, so what I've seen is you're not changed your basic in the coaching. Like you kept your patient, and you allowed and let them to talk, and out of that you kept using their language. You kept using their language.
Yeah.
Like Len spoke about, listening and was trying to understand the culture, awareness, a storytelling, and you asked the question, what is exactly story was it about, so you used the same language, Lynn spoke about the success, and I liked about scaling thing, the today's generation or any generation, they like scaling, where they are at, and how to improve that. So I like when Lynn said, the value of the presence, and then you more probe the question, how. So I liked your part, you kept your coaching, the basic remain the same, doesn't matter whom you're dealing with. So
exactly. And that's exactly right, Clive. You could have your mentor hat on. You could have your leader hat on. You could have your safety professional hat on.
Right.
The conversations look exactly the same. Even when I'm a coaching supervisor, I'm working with professional coaches, I still use the same approach. They are the expert in their world. How do we hold the mirror up to what is already they can build upon? Yeah. So what it's not, I would never just stay in question mode the whole time. Sometimes they want your input. What would you suggest I do here? And I'd probably say, well, what I've seen work with others is X, Y, and Z. But generally, I try and stay in that beginner's mind sort of approach. Yeah. And what difference do you think it makes when we have that mindset of having a big difference do you notice it had on Len to start with?
I would say that, especially if you're dealing with senior people or people like Len who knows everything. So you're creating an environment of comfortness, the ice is broken already, like a mindset, what is he going to teach me, a coach or something. But you've broken that and you created an environment and given a platform to open up and speak, and that's why he's is free without any hesitance. And that makes the coach's job easy, okay, you're getting to know what you actually want to know to coach.
Yeah.
It's a beauty on that part.
Yeah. So for Len, what difference did it make? How did you notice I was having a beginner's mind for you?
Oh, I think what was said is just the nature of the questions and the simplicity of the language. I think I've seen lots of coaches, not a lot of them, where they use muscle-bound language. And the problem is what happens then is, to me, from what I've seen, is that the person who's the mentor, the coachee, the mentee, or the coachee goes, I don't know really what you're talking about. So it's so the question is the simplicity of the question, the use of the words, and you don't have to have long sentences.
Right.
It's just a very much almost a clipped. And so, what do you think? Or those sorts of. That's the sort of thing that you go. And I think once it's not, you're not giving a monologue.
No.
You're actually just short and sweet and to the point.
That's right. Because you want them to do most of the talking.
Yeah.
Just like when you're in coaching mode, you still want them to do most of the talking. So generally it's a 70-30% split.
Yeah.
70% of the time the mentee or coachee is speaking, and 30% of the time the coach or the mentor is speaking. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to circle back to what Len said about language. Mark McGurko, who's written a lovely book called The Solutions Focus, actually says, how do you use $5 language rather than $5,000 language? $5,000 language, big words, complicated technical words, where that disconnects the relationship. So when we use the mentee's own words, it's a leveler. Yep. I'm not trying to show how clever I am of how I'm mentoring Len. This is all about him. And I'm not going to add any input because he's an expert in his world. So I'm going to use his expertise to help him to grow and learn. Questions do you have about having a beginner's mind versus having an expert mind? What questions do you have? Amy.
So one thing I noticed was, I think, Len, you had like, when you were talking, I think you had like, oh, this is what I've been doing across like a bunch of the people I'm mentoring. But then you had like a point in time when you were talking, and you had referred to like a specific issue with someone where it was more difficult to deal with them. And I feel like what it implied when you were talking through your process of what you were working through afterwards in terms of mentoring was that may not completely have worked for that person. And so I'm curious, when you're working through that, of like, the beginner's mind works, I think, quite well when like that they already have a lot of the pieces and therefore you're just kind of putting it together. But for that specific case, I felt like there was something in there that Len needed a bit more help with. I could just be and so like
and with go on, sorry.
Yeah, and so like, when do you like, how do you find that balance of like, coming in and like switching over from a beginner's mind into an expert mind?
The first step is about find out what they know already. What is their expertise in it? Because often they've forgotten that they've done this before. Yeah?
Right.
And if I had more time, it's a really good point you make, Amy. I could have circled back to Len going, so this particular person who's quite combative, yeah, have you had a situation you've worked with someone like that previously? Or what are you taking from what we've spoken about that might work with this particular trick? Yeah? So I'll weave it back in there. And if he goes, I have no idea. And then I might say, so has anyone else in your school been able to help change this person's behavior? What did they do that helped them progress? And if they go, no one has ever done this, yeah, then I would add my input. So I find out what the mentee knows first, then what they've noticed, then I slow down that expert advice giving. Yeah. Check out those scenarios first. Yeah. Others. Clive and Safina, what is becoming clearer to you about the difference between beginner's mind, expert mind?
I think the expert mind at a certain point, they feel that they don't need anybody's advice or anybody's coaching, so they think that they have achieved everything, and which is correct, they have achieved everything. I'm just trying to compare. I'm not sure if I'm on the right track. So for the beginner's mind, it's nothing that he doesn't know. The only thing the coach is doing is he's introducing himself with him, so he knows things, but you just, so the difference is the expert knows everything. That's what he's thinking. The beginner also knows everything, but it's the coach is actually, by the questioning, is introducing himself, so the question and his thinking. So that's what I understand.
Nice. Yeah, definitely. And Safina, what's become clear to you from this conversation today?
So I think I'm quite clear about the beginner's mind, but I was more thinking about the difference between coaching and mentoring. And so the difference is more that as a mentor, if necessary, you are going to give your expertise, and as a coach, would probably not do that because maybe you're not even in the same field.
That's right. However, what I've found in terms of coaching is that the similar topics keep coming up. So I do have some expertise around that. So even if I was a coach, I would do a similar thing, but I'd wait until I'd find out exactly what expertise do they have. Sometimes when people have difficult conversations, there's no role models. They might know how to do it well, so I'll model it for them and say, so what could work in your scenario? So they still have choice of what they select. Yeah. So I would love to share with you some things about solution focus and coaching in a coaching way. So the difference in what we're doing here is, in terms of being solution focused in mentoring, is we're finding out what they want, what's working already, what progress have they made already. And it's collaborative and it's quite simple, and it's about them having actions. So my Mentoring Made Easy program is self-paced and online. Yeah, so it's 8 hours total, 4 hours of content, 4 hours of, it's all about solution-focused coaching approach in it. And I'm offering a discount for up until next Friday to enroll in it. But this is what's covered in it. And what happens is I ask you to select someone to be your mentee throughout the program. So it's about working with them, doing a little bit of content, and then going and practicing it with them. So first module is the setup, which I'm going to show you in a moment. The second module is what is the difference mentoring. So I'll explain that in a bit more detail. Then I'll go into more detail about the quadrant. We use the quadrant, the dialogical orientation quadrant, as the mentoring coaching model. And then we dive into how do you set a preferred future, because I often find people move off this too quick. Then what do you do in the next session? Then module 6 is some of the key conversational skills. How do you listen? How do you ask questions? How do you give feedback? And then the 7, coaching and mentoring way of being. So beginner's mind is in that. How do you show up? How, like Len described, is your presence in how you show up? And then there's a wrap up. How do you take it forward? So in essence, you watch a video of me demonstrating that skill. There's a worksheet that you work through, and then you practice with a mentee. I provide you with some coaching cards. that look like this that you will get, then has questions on it that you use at the start. And you need someone to mentor throughout the program. People love it because it gives them really practical skills on how to mentor. And what I've found, either if you're a coach or a mentor, if you learn these effective ways of interacting, you actually improve your emotional intelligence. It really improves that. And it improves your ability to collaborate with any. This is what is covered, real detail around how do you use the solution focused tools and how do you navigate this listening map, as Hey Sun Moon, who developed it. It's a wonderful listening map. So you can work out, how do I help them get clarity of where they're heading? So Clive's was around career development. How do I get them crystal clear of what that would look like? Where are they heading in a year or two? How would they know that they'd arrived at that? And what helped them move forward in the future when they change direction? I don't want to go there. So it covers off these 3 elements of coaching in the Mentoring Made Easy program. I would love it to be your mentor coach through a program like this. Clive, probably not necessarily for you since you've been through the Leader of Coach program, or maybe as a refresher, but I'm actually coming to Dubai to do the workshops for Vantage Drilling. So it's more for you, Len and Safina. It may be a good refresher for you, but you've sort of got the skills that are for this. This is a beginner's program. So there may be people that would, best suited for it. But someone like you, Amy, that it would be a perfect program for you, give you some basic skills in mentoring. So thank you so much, everyone, for coming along. Wish Len well in his difficult conversation. It sounds like you know all the steps in what you do to build trust. I'll be sending an email with all the details about if you do want to go down that path of doing the Mentoring Made Easy program. But do look out. I do more tasters if you would like to come along to my next one is end of August it's more coaching taster that I'll be doing. But thanks so much, everyone, for coming along. I've really
Thank you.
enjoyed your input, and thank you, Len, for allowing me to
Thanks,
demonstrate.
Janet.